All right, so this is the continuation of where we stopped yesterday. We looked at vectors, matrix, and then whatsoever. Today, we want to finish up with the arrays. That's the last part of the data types that we intend to do. So I will just do that quickly, and then we continue. Right. So this is my. I think I need to share my screen as quickly as possible. Right. So I have my screen here. All right. So we want to look at this particular what is it here, data type, which we call array. Now, if you are watching my screen, we've already looked at matrix. And the syntax for matrix is that, let's say I'm going to construct a matrix here. So we are looking at data that is being represented in what is it, in a kind of a table, but not a table. So when you print a matrix, is it comes in the form of a data that has a particular prescribed number of rows that you want, and then a number of columns and whatsoever. So apart from that, the other kind of data we have is array. So let me hashtag here. Then we have array. So in array, the example is like if you have, let's say, a whole school, then you have classrooms. In each classroom, there are attributes there. Another classroom, there are attributes. Another classroom, there are attributes. So how do you represent that kind of data? A lot of things are going. So that's why matrix is very important. It's like, I mean, putting a group of data within one fold, and you can display all of them, or you can work with all of them at the same time. That's what array is. So array, if you look at it, if you come here, I've already done some few things. Let me pull this down. The syntax is always you have array, and then it will simply open this small bracket, and you will have the data. The first thing you write there is the data, followed by dimensions, and followed by dimension names in that order. So that way, then you are able to build in your array. But there's something I want us to pay attention, and that's why I keep talking about vectors. Of all that you can think about, you can think about, um, it's always important to be able to know what goes into the syntax, what goes outside the syntax, and how do you print it. So if I have an array, if you are going to construct an array like this, you see that it comes with an inbuilt function. So it tells you that the first thing, if you put it there, if you bring your cursor there, let me finish spelling array and you see, if I come and click here array, when you look at it on top, you will see the syntax, which is there. So you would have your data followed by your dimensions. How do you want the dimensions to be like? And then how do you want, or do you want the dimensions to have their own names? That is why vectors are always very important. We can actually construct all the things you have seen here, the data, it can be a vector. The dimensions can be a vector. And of course, the dimension names can also be a vector. But we're going to build it systematically. Let's first of all just print an ordinary array, and then you see how it is. Let's say I have a vector here, and let me call it vector 2 or vector whatsoever. And then I'm going to create that particular vector. Or let me just say I'm just going to create, let's say, some kind of variables there. So I have like 33, I have this, I have that, I have that, I have that. If that's a vector I have, I can create another vector here and then call it vector 3. Then I can use that same concatenate sign or function. Then I will create other set of variables there. I can actually say one. I can actually say one is to 4. I'm going to print some variable from 1 up to 4. So if you put that plus what I have there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's going to give us 9. So that's already a vector that I have created. I can actually create another vector which will be, let's say, let me just call that vector 3, and then I'm going to create that particular vector of let's say, so this is 9 variables I'm going to do. So 9 variables, if I want to do them row and arrows, I can have how many rows? I can actually have 3 rows, 3 columns. And how many do you want it to appear? Do you want it to appear 3 times or 4 times? So I can put here, let's say, 4. So when I have done this, I've constructed my 3 vectors. I'm going to run all of them, and if I do this, all of them will be run. Now I can build an array from here. So let me call that array 1, and then an array, the function is always array. By the time you finish, the array would have appeared, and it tells you that the first dimension, the first thing you need to do after the array in the bracket is data. So for the data, we are going to use the vector 1, the vector 2, and the vector 3 to form our data. So I can actually do this, or I can just, create this, and then I will say that I want my vector 2 to form part of my data, and I'm building it together with my vector 3. Then I will say my vector 3. So when I come out of it, it means I have done with the data. The next thing is the dimensions. The dimensions, what do I do? So you put the dim. The dim means dimensions. So I've already said that I've created a vector for the dimension. So I'll just put that vector there, which is vector 3. I put vector 3 there. I've actually created vector 3 twice. I think, let me change the last one to vector 4. Come and change here to vector 4. So my dimensions are going to be vector 4. So let me rerun this, and then R. Okay. So now that I've done this, if I come and I run this, you should be able to build my array for me. So you see that it ran successfully. So now if I come to build or to print this array out, which is array 1, array 1 like this, if I should print it, you should be able to see yeah. If I print it like this, I should be able to see that I have the data set of, let me fold this up, and you can see how the array is informed. So you can see that this is the first array, and you can see all of them are there. This is the second one, this is the fourth one, the third one, and this is the fourth one. Let me go back to the code and explain where all these things came from. If you come, this is the code, and so this particular vector 2 and then vector 3 that we have here is going to form our data set. So that's where I decided to use the concatenate sign or function to put all of them together. So what is going to happen is that this one and this one are going to be added together. But there's a reason why I decided to make individual vectors. We could have used other ways, but which means that the first part is what I have used the 2 vectors to build as my data, to form my data. Now, and then I follow the dimensions. The dimensions you always want to represent. This is your array. Do you want it to appear, or do you want the groups to appear just once, or it should appear, how many times do you want it to be? So after you have defined your data, the next thing is your dimensions. And the dimensions, it always starts with your rows. How many rows do you want the data to be represented? How many columns? And I'm saying that in array, when you are presenting the number of rows you want it to be and the number of columns, you should by then know that the multiple of the rows and the columns should give you the same number as the data points you have in your data. So if I come and look at 1 to 4, that's 4 data points. If I go to the vector 2, I have 5 data points there. 5 plus 4 will give us 9. So when I'm doing 3 by 3, 3 times 3 will give you 9. So it's all right. If you do not do that, it won't run. So the first one in the dimension is always your, let's say, your rows. The second one is your columns. And the third one is the number of times you want that particular data frame to be replicated, or that particular group to be replicated. So that's how we construct array, which is very important. It's not too different from matrix, but in matrix, you actually end at your rows and then your columns, which you may ask R to just define them the way they are. But for array, you are like representing data frames in different format on the same plane. And that is what the difference we can see there. Now, when we are applying mathematical operations, you also notice that for when it comes to matrix, you can just indicate your row and your column to isolate the figure you want. But in array, you have to indicate your row and your column and in which particular array you are looking for. And then you are able to do that. So that's basically array. What you should keep in mind is the syntax. So you have your data, you have your dimensions, and you have dimension names. What I have done here, I did not add dimension names to it. Maybe when I go a little bit further, I'm going to add that, and you see how dimension names have been added. So apart from that, let's do another array. I could actually do another array like this, and I'll call that array 2, and then I'm going to use, first of all, if you are building any data type, you should know the function you are going to use. So because it's going to be an array, the function is array. So I just put array there. Then it opened this small bracket. Then the first thing I'm going to do is to build my data. I could have actually said that my data is from, let's say, 30 to 45. And that is possibly going to give me 15 data points. To 44, I think I should put it that way. Or 31 to, so if I have to 45, 45, I don't know how many data points will be there. So that should be my data. Then the next thing that should follow should be my dimensions. So I just put there dim, and the dimensions should come. So the dimensions, I will just indicate whether, from 30 to 46, I think I should change this to 44 so that I can have an even number. 44, so I have like 30. Yeah. So that should be, so 30 plus 14 should give me 44. So let me put something like, but 30 will be added. So that will be 15 data points. So I'll leave it at 44. So that will be 15. So, and 15, I can say that I want my rows to be 3 and my columns should be 5. What is it? And then how many times do I want it to appear? Maybe I want it to appear 3 times. So let me leave it here and then run it and see if it will run. Yeah, there is an unused argument, which is 3. You know why? Usually it's always good to use the vector sign to create this. And when you do this and run, it runs properly. Can you see that? That's why the data, the vector is always most important. So now if I come and I print array 2, you can actually see that even though there is a problem with the code, I think I need to add some token here. And I think that should be all for it. So let me go back and run it. It runs properly because I close a bracket here, open another bracket here. So the last one, there should be 2 bracket close. So now if I print the array, I should be able to get, you see that the array has been printed. How many times? 3 times. This is the first one, the second one, and the third one. So that's one of the ways we can actually do. So the first one is always your data set. We can actually do this as many times as possible. For instance, let's say that I'm going to copy the whole of this, and then I'm going to copy the whole of that, and then just replicate it here and change some few things here. So I'm going to do this, change the variable name to array3. And then when I come here, the data aspect, you can actually do a lot of manipulations here. I can actually say that, okay, I want to repeat somebody's name. So I want to repeat my own name. Let's say, uh, but because my name is a character, I have to put it in double quotes. I'm going to put it like this. And then I come out of the code and indicate how many times do I want it to be repeated. I want it to be repeated 15 times. Okay. So it means that I want my name to be repeated 15 times, but in what dimensions? I want it to appear on 3 rows, five columns, on 3 different data frames. That's what I have just done here. So if I should, and now if I go and print data array3, you should see my name in that order. So we can see that my name has been printed as many times as you can think about. So there are, other ways to do which we can actually let the first column to be individual variables. The second column can be something else. The third column can be something else. You know what I'm going to do? I want to print an array. I want to create an array of where I have the first column. It should be made of names of people. The second column will be made of names of fruits. And then the third column will be made of, let's say, food. Let's try that and see. Now, if you look at the first one that I have here, I'm not going to waste our time. I'm just going to. So first of all, let's create different vectors of what I have just done. So I have a vector. So let me say that I have a vector, and then I'm going to assign it. That's why I like using the equal sign. And then I'm going to create a vector, and then do this. So when what kind of vector am I going to create? Is going to be characters. So I have this, and then that's going to be names of people, right? So let me just put my own name there. Then I come out, I put another person's name there. Let me say this person's name. Then I come out of it. Then I put the last name there. And the last name there, let me put a lady's name, Martha. That's my first vector. The second vector, I said I'm going to create names of fruits. So I have vet one, then, or should I say vet 111? Whichever way you do it, you can actually say V1. It doesn't matter. Then I just put this. I have this. So because all of them are going to be characters, there will be. So the first fruit I'm going to do is mango. Then when I come out, the second fruit is my favorite, which is banana. And then the third fruit is going to be my other favorite, which is orange. You get the spelling right. So I'm done with that. And then we create the third vector. And then what are we going to do here? We said we are going to also create names, fruits, and then food. Okay. So what is food I have here? I like TZ a lot. Then I come out of it. Somebody likes Banco a lot. Then I come out, and then I know somebody who likes Wache a lot. So I put that, the 3. Now I have created the 3. So it means, then let me create or let me leave it this way. Then run this particular 3. When I run them, all of them should run properly. What is it? So now that they have all run, let me build a list. Oh, sorry. Let me build a list, and then I'm going to say the list. I'm going to name it. Let's say my L. Let me say my list one, and pack all the vectors I've created into the list. And then you just use the list function. It's going to come. So I put there the first one. Let's put there the second one, which is V1, and then I put there the last one, which is V2, VT2. So that it runs. So now let me come and print the list first of all, and then you see something. So I have my list one. If I print it, it should be able to print everything that I have there. So you can see that it has printed everything. Now, let's go back and then build our array with this. So that's going to be our array. Let's give it any name at all, variable names, anything at all goes. Then I have this. The most important thing is to put the function, which is array, and then it opens. So the first one should be our data. So our data is going to be the vectors we have already created, right? So our is going to be the vectors we have already created, which is VT, then followed by V1, and then followed by VT2, right? So I'm going to come out of it. We are done with our data. Then we follow by our dimensions. So I put the dimensions, and then the dimensions. I want this to, the data points are actually 9. So it's going to be 3 by 3. So I have like this, and I put the first I should have 3 rows, 3 columns, and I want this to appear also 3 times. What about that? That should be done. There, I have finished. So now let me come and print that particular array, and you see what will happen. So you notice that I have 3 rows, 3 columns, but in each row there are different things. You see that the first row is made of names of people. The second row is made of names of fruits, and the third row is made of names of what? Food. Now I'm not going to use this one to show you how to indicate column names, and then row names, and then matrix names. So, and each of them, if you are going to indicate column name, you say call.names. That's the function. And R will know that you are saying that you want the columns to have those names. If you want the row names, you say, let's say row dot names. And then if you want the what is it, the matrix to have different name, you can say maybe matrix 1 is something, matrix 2 is this, matrix 2, and then show it is matrix dot names. So I'm going to do that. That will be our second assignment, and then I'll be done with this for today. Because I mean, applying mathematical operations on this, I told you that I'm going to do that quickly, and we call it subsetting. We'll be looking at how to subset array, subset matrix, and of course subset data frame. So now we've created this, and then we have this. So I'm going to use the same thing, but I'm not going to come here and just say that, okay, I want to have, I want to change all of them to, I want to add something we call column names or whatsoever. So let's say that from here, I'm going to leave that out, and then I'm just going to build. So if you have column.names, that's the column names. So we also use the vector sign to create them, just like the way we have created the symbol there. So we could have just say here, the first column, what do we want it? They are names of people. So they are names. Then the second one, that particular column, it was made of fruits. Fruits. We could have said their favorite fruits. And the last one, we could say their favorite what? Food. That's for the column names. And the row names, who are they? They are, let's say, the first person is a police officer, the second person is a teacher, and the third person is a student. All right. And then the matrix too, we notice that this is 3 by 3 kind of matrix. You can see in the dimension as we have it here, down here. So what I'm going to do is I will just have the matrix names. I should have how many matrix? Because it is 3 by 3, I should have 3 different matrix. So I will say that the matrix name, the first matrix should be called, what do I put here? The first matrix should be called, let's say, okay, maybe class 1. It doesn't make sense, but let me just put it there. Class 1. At least I should give some realistic examples. So because I put police, teacher, and then this, I could say profession 1. Profession 1. Okay. Profession 1. Then the second should be profession 2. And then I come out and say that that should be in double quotes. I have profession 3. So now I have created the entire thing. Now, when I come to now building up the array, all that I have here is the first part in building. So you see that all of them run. I just did a bulk random. Now I'm now coming to build the array. This array I'm going to build, I'm going to add what we call column names and then dimensions or whatsoever. So if you come and you are building that kind of array, it's different from the one we built first. I'm just going to copy this and then place it here. Now, let's say the next array I'm going to build, that one is array 3, 4. So you come here, you have array. So this first part, where I'm highlighting, is where our data is. So the data is going to be made of VT, V1, and then V2. So we have all of them here. Then the dimensions. We want the dimensions to have to be made of column. The first one is rows, the second one is columns, and the third one is the matrix names. Remember that this 3 means 3 rows, 3 columns, and then how many times do we want it to appear? 3 times. Okay. So we have the row names, which is row.names. It is here. So instead of putting 3 there, we will put that place row.names. It's very simple like that. So we are using that particular vector that we have built to now put it there. So I will put the row dot names, which is already here. Then the next one should be columns. So I'll put the columns dot names. It comes. And then the third one should be our matrix dot names. So let me go into, and then I'll put the matrix dot names, because we've already built those vectors and they are standing out there. So when we are done with that, then what is it? Then we can simply go out there and then we can simply just now come and create this one separately, and then I think that we should be done. So I'm going to leave this one here, and then I think I should change this one and put it into And then I'm going to put it, I'm going to use, yep. And then I'll come here, just take this out, and then come and put it around here and use comma like this. That's all. I have finished building, but I think that the distance is just too long. It's too long. I think I can actually break it here. Yeah. So it works. So now let me explain the code before I run it. So we have array. The first part is the data. The data is made of this VT and then V1, these three vectors on top here. That's what we have built our data, which is here. The second thing is the dimensions. We want it to be rows, columns, and appear 3 times. But the rows, what name do we give to it? That's where we have row names. So we have dimension names. So the dimension names, we have already built the vectors for them. But because they are, what is it, vectors of different characters and then mixed with numerals, you have to use the list function. So we use the list and we say row.names. It means that when you use the list function, it's not going to print row.names. It's going to print whatever that is contained in that vector. And that's what it is. And then we also have column.names and we have matrix.names and in that order. So that particular one is built like that. So if I run it, you see that it runs properly. It will just run. So everything has been packed into this array 3, 4. So I can just copy that and come and put it here and then run it. So now if I have to run array 3, 4, you see the outlay a little bit different from. So you see that now I have the rows are made of police, teacher, student. The first one are names, or so this is the police, and the name is here. The favorite fruit is here. The favorite food is here. And then how many are there? This is the first profession, second profession, and then third profession. So profession 3. So that's how we name our matrix. We name the columns, we name the rows, and then we run and everything will run. I hope today's tutorial has been very helpful. We've tried to look at array, how to build array. The most important thing is to know the syntax, which we have it here. The next thing is to know that you can end it at just dimensions. You build your data, you indicate the dimensions you want it to be. The dimension can be a vector, it will work. You can actually also use the concatenate sign to build your dimensions, it will also work. If you also want, you can go ahead and actually name your rows and then name your columns and even name the groups or the matrix, each of them. And that's what I've just done here, which is an example here. So you can practice this over and over. So now our whole array data has been built into this particular thing here. So supposing I now bring a curly bracket here and I put comma and put another comma, you will notice that the first comma is separating a row. The second comma is separating a column. The third space to your right is where you indicate in which group are you selecting. So that's how we do subsetting in array. But I'm not going to jump the gun today. I'll be doing subsetting of all of them: matrix, data frame, and then array. For when it comes to matrix and array, you use 2 commas to be able to do your subsetting. When it comes to data frame, you use 1 comma. Left, right, and then, but for array, you have left, right, and center. The left is rows, the center is columns, the last is the group. So you indicate. So I want this particular number. I want the number that is found at this particular intersection between the rows and the columns on this particular group. That's how we are able to subset arrays and then matrices. So thanks very much. If you were watching, and whatever that you have, you can put it in your comment box and then I can look at it later on. We will also look at how to plot or how to visualize array. Arrays are very important in matrix. If you don't have them, you can't build a stack bar plot. It's not easy to build a stack bar plot without converting your data frame into a matrix. And we will learn that as we go alongside. Thanks. I'll leave it here. We will see you again.